Hi, welcome to the Idea Gen Acceleration Summit. In this session, you're going to learn about the Future of Work Grand Challenge. My name is Jane Oates. I'm the president of WorkingNation, a nonprofit dedicated to the solutions around the challenges that face the future of work. I'm also honored to be the chair of Idea Gen Washington, Baltimore region. So to begin our discussion, I'd like to introduce Dr. Angela Jackson. Angela is the managing partner of New Profit, a venture fund philanthropic organization that does tremendous work. But today we're going to talk very specifically about her incredible leadership in this Future of Work Grand Challenge. Angela?
Hey, Jane, great to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, it's always a great conversation with you. But for our folks who know nothing about what you and I are now talking about, would you just give us an overview, not only of the future of work and New Profit, but of your important role in it?
Absolutely. So we can start with the Future of Work Grand Challenge. Last year, Jane, this was even pre-pandemic. We were working on this Future of Work Grand Challenge. And the idea is, how do you rapidly upskill U.S. workers who are thinking about making career changes and training them for jobs that are afforded by the future of work? The pandemic hit in March. We launched this challenge in June of 2020. And the idea behind it was to surface innovators and solutions that could rapidly reskill U.S. workers for the jobs of the future. We put out a call. We had over 1,500 entrepreneurs who applied. Of that, we narrowed it down to 15, and two of those solution teams will meet today. But they're all vying for $6 million in funding to implement solutions to train the rapidly reskill those 25,000 workers into higher wage jobs. And really what think is most special about this challenge is it's more than just ideas. We are actually pairing them with influential workforce boards to help them equip them with the tools to actually validate and use those workforce boards and their on-the-ground partnerships to make sure that these solutions reach workers and get them back to work. And so this is part of an initiative that I lead at New Profit that's around economic mobility and the future of work. Our goal with our investments at New Profit is to get more Americans and more U.S. residents who are working on the pathway to careers with jobs with living wages. The second part of that is that ultimately we want to get more people on the path to middle class. Wages have been stagnant for workers. We are, as a country, we have so many jobs that are going unfilled. We just thought as a philanthropy that we could help in this moment. So we're really excited about the challenge, about the work that we're doing here. This is just the beginning of our investments. The teams that you will meet today are vying for $5 million, by meeting that goal of getting those workers back to work, and just excited to dig in and learn more about their solutions today.
Well, it's such incredible work. I mean, there's two things that you say that I think are very important. One is living wage jobs. I mean, I think it's all too frequent that we just put people in any job. And I really applaud you for concentrating on these jobs that are going to allow people to have family sustaining wages. Now, I want to ask you, just for the viewers, for the 6 sites, because you've chosen 6 sites, and that's the second part I really like. All solutions in my mind are local. So could you talk just briefly about your 6 sites that you've chosen?
So in the beginning of the Future Work Grand Challenge, when we partnered with XPRIZE and we also partnered with MIT, we wanted to make sure that we were sourcing solutions where there were actually like a pathway to a job at the end. So we partnered with MC Burning Glass and used real-time data analytics to understand on a regional, local level what employers were hiring. With that, we set out with an RFP to influential boards across the country, and we asked them to apply to be one of the pilot partners, and we selected 6. San Diego was one of the cities, Dallas, Texas, Southwest Michigan, Hampton Roads, Virginia, Hartford, Connecticut, Hampton Roads, Virginia, and Worcester, Massachusetts. And we intentionally selected 6 different communities because, as you mentioned, Jane, workforce happens at a local level, right? You need to understand the local context, the sectors that are growing, who are the influential employers. And we wanted to partner with the boards to really deeply understand that local context. And we thought by selecting 6 different boards that we could get learnings from very different urban, rural, blue states, red states, some that are manufacturing, some that are like really high tech, to think about how we could take those lessons from those 6 boards and then transfer them, right, to other boards and share our learnings, the challenges, the obstacles, and also the opportunities.
Yeah, and it's just so smart because in choosing publicly funded workforce boards, your money is going to go 100% to innovation, not to infrastructure, not to keeping the lights on or hiring a director. Really, really smart. Plus, you get the learnings of those people. Now, so you have 6 geographic sites, and I agree with you, very different. Some, regional consortia kinds of things, some big cities, but you also did a competition for the solutions, the innovators. Can you talk a little bit about that competition?
Yeah, so when we're thinking about the innovators, the first thing we did is we gave them that data analytics. And we really wanted to know from the solution providers, one, do you think using technology that you can rapidly reskill workers in half the time? And if you look at some of the going rates out there, you look at the Europes of the world, for example, who do amazing training programs, they typically take a year to do a training with a working learner. We were asking teams to cut that time in half. And so really understanding if they could rapidly reskill someone in 6 months or less. And we offered this prize pool over $5 million. And we said to teams, over several rounds, how do you get to that large number? So the first round, we gave them $100,000 each team to pilot with a workforce board and to get the word out. When they piloted with the workforce board, there was a little matchmaking magic behind the scenes. We wanted to make sure that they knew what they were getting themselves into. We let them meet the boards, understand the local context, gave them the data analytics so they could understand what sectors were growing in that community that they would be probably piloting with. They use that data to really tailor their platforms. And some of these organizations who you'll meet, they had been doing work in this space throughout the country. Some of them you'll meet today have been doing it internationally, looking at rapid reskilling. We wanted these innovators to really drill in and zero in on these local communities to say, okay, we could take our platform that may be national or international, and let's get people back to work specifically in a geography.
Well, you tee up our next part perfectly, because while you've done, as usual, an excellent job describing the big picture, we're going to get a chance now to drill down on one location and 2 of the innovations that they're using. So first, I'd like to bring on Christina Brooks. She'll introduce herself, but her title is Senior Director of Youth Services at the Hampton Roads location, which is a connection between Virginia and North Carolina. Then joining Christina, we have Andy Dwonch, who's the COO of Career Path, one of the innovative solutions. And finally, we have Lewis Johnson, who's the president and CEO of Alelo. And they're going to tell you much more about what they do. Christina, could I ask you to start since you're the host site?
Christina Brooks with the Hampton Roads Workforce Council. And as Jane mentioned, I am the Senior Director of Youth Services and Special Projects, which means I'm the local bridge that is helping to connect our training solutions with our community partners, those nonprofits that reach out to our job seekers, the government agencies that are working with them, and also with industry itself, so that we do have that finish line at the end of the road for our training providers to connect their students in with those living wage opportunities that are coming. Really excited to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much for joining us. Andy?
Hi, Jane. Thanks for having us here. So I'm Andy Dwonch. I'm the Chief Operations Officer for Career Path Services. And I'm also team leader of the Dignity of Work training solution. We've been partnering with 2 other organizations here in Washington State to deliver an end-to-end training program in Hampton Roads region to get people upskilled and ready to work in the construction industry. We focused on construction because we see, massive demand for infrastructure around the country. Hampton Roads is no exception, both looking at big community infrastructure and also housing.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. Lewis?
Hi, I'm Louis Johnson, President and CEO of Alelo. We use AI simulation technology to help people quickly learn new skills, and we're happy to be part of the Future of Work Grand Challenge. We are currently working with the Hampton Roads Workforce Council to retrain workers to become community health workers in the Hampton Roads region.
Wow. So, such diversity already. Now, Christine, tell me how you're bringing these folks were new to you before the challenge. They're not local to Virginia or North Carolina. So tell me a little bit how you brought them in and made them part of your Hampton Roads portfolio of services.
So, as Dr. Jackson was mentioning, there was a lot of matching and meetings, and really it just started with a lot of really good conversations with our solution providers and getting to know what they do and how they do it. Here in our region, we knew that we have a significant need for more construction workers. We have thousands of open jobs. We need more help in our healthcare industry. It's one of our largest. We need community health workers. And we also know that our manufacturing industry is struggling and there are thousands of open positions there, which is our third training solution. So we spent a lot of time just getting to know how they were going to deliver in our region. And then we did some meet and greets with our industry partners, with our nonprofit partners, and with job seekers themselves so that we can start building that nice pipeline to move individuals in and out of the training programs and into those living wage jobs.
And Louis and Andy, can I ask you a little bit about how it was getting to know a new area? I mean, I'm guessing I know Hampton Roads because I live in Virginia, but I'm guessing you two didn't know it very well. Tell me a little bit about how it was getting to know them so that you could customize your solution to meet the community there.
Well, we actually knew the Hampton Roads area pretty well because we do a lot of work with the U.S. military to train people overseas in foreign languages and cultures. And the big training headquarters is based in the Hampton Roads region. So I've been to the area quite a bit. And yeah, I was a little surprised when we were connected with Hampton Roads, but it was an obvious choice. And we've really, it's worked very well so far.
That's great. Andy?
Yeah, similar for us. We are three organizations that are working together based in Washington State. We understand that because we work with workforce boards in our region, we knew that we needed to get out there on the ground as soon as we could to really connect with the employers and also with some of the job seekers to understand the context of the area, to understand the cultural sort of considerations and things of that nature. So it's been really wonderful working with Christina until now, really, hitting the ground running and helping to skill up their workers there.
Now, Christina, these both of these solutions are heavily technology based. I mean, Louis, yours specifically, Andy, yours a little bit less, but I would say equally technology based. Christina, how have you been working with your local population to make sure that everybody understands how to use the technology and has access to what they need in order to utilize the technology?
Yeah, virtual training solutions are those double-edged swords because they're wonderful. They help create more equity and access to individuals that may not be able to have the transportation to get to the classroom, may not have childcare available. And in our region, transportation and childcare are major barriers to sustaining employment. On the flip side of that, if we are also targeting individuals that are under-resourced, then having technology in the home, strong internet connections, can also be a barrier. So we are working with our libraries in the area to figure out who is open because some of our areas are still closed with COVID. Our resource room at our American Job Center, the Virginia Career Works, is available for individuals who need computer access. And we work very closely with our program solutions case managers to identify individuals with specific needs that we can then reach out to local partners in an attempt to help fill that.
Oh, that's great. Angela, Christina brought up a word that I want to bring up with you, and that's like equity, equitable access, equity in dealing with solutions, because we know all too often the least resourced population among us gets stuck into jobs very quickly and not into the kinds of jobs you're planning for. Tell me how equity is really at the core of the whole X Prize initiative.
Yeah, at the beginning of the initiative, one insight we had, we went out and we talked to over 100 of the top employers. So think folks like the Department of Defense, Walmart, Accenture should really understand what they were seeing as the skills of the future. And the other question we began to ask ourselves at that point was, we had identified skills. Human skills were number one. The second were like just technical specific skills. But what was interesting, the following question we had was, well, how do adults, working learners, like obtain these skills without going back and getting a 4-year degree? And some of the technology that both teams are sharing today didn't exist when most of us were, either in high school or even undergraduate. So if you're a working learner, where do you go to be upskilled in this matter? And so it became clear to us that we really needed to center all of the technology and on this initiative from a working learner's perspective. So using technology, as Christina mentioned, we wanted to level the playing field. We're like, how can we bring this training to someone in their home, into their job if they're on their lunch break, at 6 o'clock in the morning, or it may be at 11. So we wanted to make that equitable. One thing we did with that is we stood up a worker advisory board, which included members, U.S. residents who were across the U.S., who didn't have a 4-year degree and who had other barriers to employment. And they actually helped us select the solutions that are among our 15 finalists. They were able to interact with the solutions, give us feedback, and let us know which ones that they would be interested in trying. We used that information to narrow down to the 15. And then with that, when we went out to workforce boards, we really wanted to understand at a local level what local workers were thinking. And again, having them in the boards and having that real centering this initiative on the workforce boards and the American Job Centers, we were putting workers at the center. Far too often we have technology, and especially when it comes to accelerated learning, that is really targeted towards job seekers who have a 4-year degree, and then it's retrofitted for workers who don't have a 4-year degree. And we really wanted these solutions and technologists to center workers who didn't have a 4-year degree, who have other, barriers to employment, who have language and barriers, and really think about how their technology is going to meet their need in this moment. And just really proud that all of our solution providers, the boards, there's a shared commitment around this goal. And we always talk about the 70 million. There's over 70 million US residents who don't have a 4-year degree. There's 2/3 of veterans who don't have a 4-year degree. So this is a real population. We wanted to have their voice in every single aspect of this challenge, and then validating, one, telling us what they want, and then two, validating that these are the solutions that are going to be best fit their lived realities.
Well, how game changing is that to have the people who could use this solution involved in the choice and learning about the solution at the beginning? That's amazing. So let's let our listeners learn a little bit about the solutions. Lewis, why don't you start? You're going to do healthcare in the Hampton Roads region. You're focusing on that, and you talked about language development that you've been doing over the course of years for the military. But tell us a little bit about what your solution is. What is your technology?
We have AI avatar technology that we can use to simulate patients that trainees can practice with in various kinds of situations. And so this is a great way for people to develop people skills and prepare for on-the-job situations that they're likely to encounter. And it really addresses a big gap that we see in online learning, which tends to focus on teaching the background knowledge of a subject, whereas we're really focusing on skills, creating simulations where learners can practice, develop skills, and then apply them in the real world.
So give us a clear example about an easy skill that somebody can do with this avatar.
So, for example, we creating a lot of cases around COVID-19 response, which of course is an area of demand. So one of the first things you learn is to be a contact tracer. So you on your computer, you pick up the phone and talk with an avatar, introduce yourself, and explain why you're calling, answer their questions about COVID-19. And in the process, you're learning the competencies that community health workers need to be able to deal with a diverse range of patients and develop their trust and help them to achieve better learning, better health outcomes.
How exciting is that? I mean, you talk about getting to practice with a non-judgmental patient. That's terrific. That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Andy, tell me a little bit. Now you're going to focus on construction. Tell me a little bit about how that works.
So we have a training program that's on a learning management system that basically helps our learners to go through the curriculum on the pace that they're comfortable and able to do based on their other requirements and obligations at home. So the content is broad ranging in terms of construction industry, looks at construction-based math, blueprint reading, introduction to the various fields of the industry, and ultimately culminates with an in-person boot camp that we're running together with a community college, Tidewater Community College in Hampton Roads region, where they build kind of a capstone project and have a chance to work with power tools that they obviously don't have access to in their own home. So the idea behind it is that they get to work independently at their own pace, and then come together to have a chance to meet with industry partners at the very end and to demonstrate the skills that they've accumulated over the roughly a month of full-time work.
Wow, it sounds like the best of both worlds. I mean, when you bring up that four-letter word math, I know for both young people and career changers who might be a little older, that math is really difficult. So in your program, I can do the sector necessary math for construction. I can practice it on my own. Is that right?
That's correct. And we also have coaches that are able to meet with the folks who may be having trouble with that particular area of the course. It is one of the barriers of entry to construction. Typically, you don't need a really high level of math, but you have to be able to do basic calculations and in particular measurements and to be able to calculate quantities of materials accurately. So it is an important piece, but we're there to help support their efforts as they go through it.
That's great. Listen, we could stop right now and give a little quiz to everyone watching on adding fractions and subtracting fractions. And I bet math would seem a lot more difficult if they had to be tested on it. So I think it's great. And I love the fact that then they come together in both of these models, they get to gain their confidence as well as their competence, privately. And when they come together with groups of people, it's not like doing it for the first time. So Christina, tell me, in these very early stages, how is this working so far?
Oh, I think it's working great. And I do want to mention, as they were talking about the skills that their learners are able to gain in the programs, I think one of the most important skills that both of our solutions that are on this panel today, Alelo and Dignity of Work Career Path Services, as well as our third solution, Generation USA, are emphasizing are those soft skills. They spend a lot of time on communication, on teaching them how to work with other people, on scheduling their lives, and on just being that well-rounded employee. When we went into this challenge, our industry kept telling us the same thing. They can teach somebody how to do the job, but where they're struggling is teaching them those soft skills of communication, time management, and problem solving. And our solutions are spending a lot of time on focusing there. I think that the first few weeks has been phenomenal. We're starting to see our first learners approach that graduation. Our employers are getting excited because they have a workforce coming out. And again, they're going to have the hard skills, but they're also going to have those critical people skills that are going to be a well-rounded package.
Yeah, I just think it's so exciting because you're an area, as you mentioned, rich in construction jobs, in manufacturing jobs with Huntington Ingalls right in your backyard. But many of the barriers for these folks to get into some of these registered apprenticeship programs has been the lack of skills that Andy was talking about, those math skills. And I think the skills that both Andy and Lewis have been talking about, the confidence and the people skills and the ability to work in a team. So I think you're already, your first class graduates soon, right? Your first group.
So Dignity of Works should have theirs out in the next 2 weeks. And Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know we were targeting that July 10th date for they're approaching the end. And Lewis, I believe your first cohort is also coming up on their completion next couple of weeks.
They're finishing this week, absolutely, the first cohort. Yeah, and this area of people skills relates to this theme of reskilling, which is very important in this program, which is that a lot of people in other areas, they may have developed effective people skills working with customers, but they don't know how to apply that in a new occupation. And our approach really reinforces that. So again, it builds people's, as you say, builds their self-confidence to recognize that they already have the skills. Now they need to apply them in this new occupation.
Lewis, that's a great point. And one thing I wanted to just say across both solutions is even before you reskill people, you know, folks need to know that these jobs actually exist, right? And when we say contact tracer, that's new. And if you're sitting at home, you know, you've worked in a restaurant, you know, the restaurant shut down and you're figuring out what's next. How do you know that being a contact tracer could even be a pathway for you to get on? And so I really love that they are demystifying these careers that are like within walking distance, within hand's reach for people, but people may not take advantage of them because they think that in their minds the barriers are too high. But like Lewis just said, a lot of the skills that are needed, a lot of people, one, already have them. They may need help translating them, right? Thinking about how, if they're sitting in front of an employer, they talk about those adjacencies. And I think that's the brilliance of what these two solutions are doing. They're doing that human skills, they're doing the tech skills, and they're demystifying what these jobs of the future are, and then sharing what the pathways look like. And, you know, Jane, we're all living long time, right? So researchers say that the first person that was estimated to live to be 150 has already been born. And so the things that these two teams are doing by helping people transfer their skills, reskill rapidly, it's not just for the 70 million who don't have a degree, it's for all of us. Like all of us are going to go through these transitions if we're blessed enough to live long enough. And so really excited about these technologies.
Yeah, and that brings up a good question, Christina. What age groups like took advantage of this first cohort? Who were the first people to dive into the opportunity?
They have a mixture of everything in their programs. I know Dignity of Work has some that are 17 in their program, going all the way up into the middle age range. Alelo, they've got a good spread generation. Andy, Lewis, I don't know if you guys want to jump in, but I've seen the whole wide range of age groups going into these programs.
Yeah, that's certainly what we've seen as well. You know, we've seen from people who are just getting out of high school and are just looking to get a job, to people who, you know, life happened and sent them in a different direction, and now they want to move into a new occupation. And so we get them all, absolutely.
Well, what's the plan for dissemination? And this is for all of you. How are you going to get the word out about the success of this first cohort and future cohorts? Angela, large scale, or I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Andy.
We've been working really hard to get people interested in the construction trades. Traditionally, people have looked at construction and labor type work as being potentially a dead end type job. And, you know, through our efforts to connect with industry in the region, and, you know, through our soft skills training program that we've talked about here thus far, you know, we believe that those universal skills that people are learning through the program, beyond the hard technical skills, are really going to be the thing that makes a difference for people to not only get their foot into the door of good initial living wage employment, but to be able to have wage progression beyond that point, and to really lead to lifelong employment within the industry. So I think the first thing that we really have to do after the first graduation is to, you know, use those examples of individuals who are now off and running in the industry as a way to incentivize others to get involved.
So we're working to expand our program nationally as well as internationally. And so part of that is to align our curriculum with the common curriculum standards that are recognized in a number of states. So we're working to get certified in various jurisdictions. And because healthcare training in the US is well recognized around the world, we're positioning ourselves so that when the next pandemic comes and there will be a need for community health workers around the world, we will be in position to provide training to people on the ground quickly.
And just to wrap it up from the local end, all I'll say is the Workforce Council, we're shouting it from the rooftops. We're so proud of our training solutions and our job seekers that are going through this training, that we're getting the word out to every partner, every industry. We're sending it out in our regular, media releases. We are just so proud and excited of our partners in this initiative that we are getting the word out there as widely as we can.
And Jane, we have just been really fortunate to have partners in the solution teams, the boards like Christina at Hampton Roads. We are all committed to getting the set of workers employed today that we're trying to reach to 25,000. But I think as a group, we're also committed to taking the learnings from this challenge and expanding it across, throughout the state, throughout the country. So a couple things that we're doing. This is the second round of the challenge. The next round, the teams who advance to the third round, they will be tasked with reaching 5,000 workers. And then that round, they'll vie for that prize purse of, up to $5 million. As an organization, New Profit, we are going to invite another set of workforce boards to come on board to partner with us in that next phase to see if they want to take on these solutions. So we'll be able to share the status, the success from the 15. We'll also be able solutions that we're piloting, and also we'll share lessons learned from the 6 workforce boards with another set of workforce boards who will take that on. And so we're continuing to be out there to share the learnings. We want to thank IGN for this opportunity. This is a big part of our strategy in just really introducing different audiences, not only to these solutions, but to the innovative partnership. It took a leap from the boards, also from the teams, to think about partnering in a new way. There was also a local philanthropy partner, Rise Resilience, who helped funded this. It really was an ecosystem coming together in service of getting people back to work, which has been like the engine behind this initiative.
Well, Angela, thank you so much. All of you, thank you. And I know we're going to supply contact information for the programs at the end of this, and you'll be willing to answer any questions, I know. But this is so exciting. On behalf of IdeaGen and WorkingNation, thank you. This has been a great appetizer. We hope you'll come back for future IdeaGen events to tell people what's happening 3 months, 6 months, 12 months from now, because this is a game changer. And all of you are doing such great service to our nation, both in the equity lens and the back to work, because we all believe that work is a big part of our dignity in our life, whether we're 17 or 70. So thank you very much. And with that, I turn you back. I hope you'll come and listen to many more sessions at the IdeaGen event this week. And we look forward to seeing you soon.